The reenactments and commentary in this program may contain frank talk of a sexual nature. Viewer discretion is advised.
A one-way ticket south of the border? No escape from Neverland? Video lies? What's that all about? Conspiracies abound in Santa Maria. Hello, I'm James Curtis. Welcome to E's coverage of the Michael Jackson trial. The King of Pop and his defense attorney Tom Mesereau entered the courthouse for yet another day of captivating legal drama. Earlier, on direct examination, you will recall that Neverland security guard Qasim Abdul claimed that he saw Jackson and his 1993 accuser lounging in a hot tub and a little more. Now, on cross-examination, defense attorney Tom Mesereau hits back and hits back hard. Here's what the jurors heard according to the courtroom transcripts.
Okay. Do you remember signing a statement that discussed what you'd seen of Jordy at Neverland?
I remember signing a statement. I believe that statement I signed was not that when I met with the attorneys. That was a statement that was prepared by the investigator in his handwriting. Yes, I did sign it.
And you also corrected the statement before you signed it, true?
My name. I corrected it, yes.
You said you'd never seen Mr. Jackson engage in anything sexual with Jordy, correct?
Yes.
And you said that no one working at the ranch had ever complained about Mr. Jackson doing anything sexual with children, correct?
Right. No, that was before I went to the grand jury. Before, I think. Before I met with Mr. Sanger's office.
The date was January 13th, 1994, right?
Right.
Okay.
So that was months before I think I went to the grand jury.
That still doesn't sound good, folks, and we'll tell you why in just a moment. Next, would you trust your children with Michael Jackson?
You said you were the father of 2 children?
Yes, sir.
That you had no problem leaving them alone with Mr. Jackson, correct?
I'm going to object to the question. It's hearsay. It's an improper use of the document.
Sustain.
At any time, did you ever tell any representative of Mr. Jackson that you are the father of 2 children, ages 9 and 13, and you would have no problem leaving them alone with Mr. Jackson?
Same objection, Your Honor.
Overruled.
I probably did. I have no reason to say no.
Would it refresh your recollection if I just show you that portion of it?
If it's there, it's there, yeah.
May I approach, Your Honor?
Yes.
Right. Okay. Yeah, I signed that.
You've had a chance to look at that document?
Yeah, I've looked at it, sir.
And you did make that statement that you were the father of 2 children, 9 and 13, and they had both visited the ranch, right?
I signed it, the statement. It's not my writing. I didn't write that statement.
But you signed it.
Yes.
One step forward, 2 steps back has got to be the theme of the prosecution's case. This witness comes out pretty strong with respect to his observations, and now he apparently was willing to leave his own children with Michael Jackson, at least between the time this incident supposedly happened and before he talked to the prosecutor and went to the grand jury.
Watching paint dry is more exciting than this because there's no tears. I mean, it's just
he
amazing.
Cried yesterday. You missed
oh,
it.
I know.
You did cry yesterday.
I did see the videotape.
Yeah.
I don't know why Mr. Mesereau couldn't get him to cry today. Look, again, another
talent.
Another tainted witness, another loser in the lawsuit. I just wish, I've said it again, I know I get emails about this, put the case on, get out, let the defense, and let's get to the jury.
All right, Ricky, the prosecution side.
Well, the prosecution side is clear that the prosecution is permitted to show that Michael Jackson has a propensity that is to be a child molester. Yeah. That's what the law says. I'm not saying that's the truth, but that's the reason it comes in. So why wouldn't they put in all these witnesses? The fact that these witnesses may have some taint doesn't mean that they will be disbelieved.
And indeed, as the judges always told us when we objected to stuff like this, it goes to the weight, not the admissibility, and we'll explain what that means along with some other legal mumbo-jumbo. Lots of it coming up, folks. We're on to the next witness. Her name is Cynthia Montgomery. She is the King of Pop's travel agent. Now, under questioning by Assistant District Attorney Mag Nicola, you've heard from him a couple of times earlier on, but sparingly, the seemingly wild tale of a plot to ship the accuser's family off to South America suddenly sounds a bit more plausible.
You can relay what he asked you to do for him, please.
He asked me to make flight arrangements for 4 passengers to Brazil.
Okay, and are the names of those 4 passengers listed on this document?
Yes, they are.
Did you personally highlight the lines within that exhibit prior to court?
Yes, I did.
Okay, and are the names listed on this reservation easily available to you to read to the jury?
Yes, they are.
Please do so.
Janet, Devlin, Star, Gavin.
Did Mr. Schaffel tell you where he wanted the to fly to?
Yes, he did.
Where?
To Brazil, Sao Paulo.
You're going to have to speak up.
Sao Paulo, Brazil.
Okay.
South America.
Did he make a specific request as to what kind of tickets he wanted?
Yes, he did.
For the he did?
One-way tickets.
Okay. Is it possible for U.S. citizens to get into Brazil with a one-way ticket?
No, it's not.
Why is that?
For visa reasons, you must have a return ticket to enter the country.
Okay. Did you make arrangements for return tickets for the
I did. I chose the date.
You chose the date for their return?
I did.
Was that done arbitrarily, or did you discuss that with Mr. Schaffel?
Objection. Leading.
Overruled.
I chose a date arbitrarily, and then I called him to tell him what I had done and the reason why I did it.
All right, for all you would-be law school armchair trial folks, if ever there was a leading question, that was one of them, and Howard Weitzman, after this piece of testimony, is explain why it was. As the testimony continues, we're reminded of how much it pays to plan trips way in advance.
Okay, when you finished making these arrangements for the to travel to Brazil, how many days' notice did you give the airline before the flight?
Just a couple days.
Okay, the flight was scheduled to leave on what date?
March the 1st of 2003.
And you made the reservation on the 25th of February 2003?
That's correct.
What was the cost going to be for that flight?
For a party of 4, $15,092.
Were you flying in first class?
No.
Those are coach prices.
Coach. They were open tickets, basically. You know, they're expensive.
Did Mr. Schaffel ask you to do anything with the reservations once they were made?
Yes, he did.
What did he ask you to do, please?
Objection. Hearsay.
Same offer of proof, Your Honor.
All right, I'm going to admit this for the limited purpose. Go ahead.
To fax over the itinerary because they needed passports.
Did you ever speak to Ms. about these flight arrangements?
Not to my recollection, no.
Okay. How about any members of her family?
No.
If I may have just a moment, Your Honor, I have a few more questions, if that's okay. I don't need the inputs anymore, Judge. Thank you. Now, with respect to the reservations you made for the to travel to Brazil on March 1st of 2003, assuming they made that flight that left on March 1st, 2003, was there any requirement for them to make the return flight on the date that you chose?
Objection. Foundation calls for speculation.
Overruled. You may answer.
No.
All right, apparently they're dealing with video issues as well in that courtroom as well as the testimony. All right, Howard, before we get to the substance, leading, give us a little explanation, Professor.
Well, leading means you give the answer that you're looking for in the question. For example, the question we referred to, was the date, was this done arbitrarily, or did you discuss that with Mr. Schaffel? Referring to the date. The question was, how was the date selected? And then she can answer the question.
Right.
He's basically given her the answer.
Yeah, it was arbitrary, wasn't it, essentially?
Yes,
Right.
that's what he asked.
Of course, I just want to point out the judge once again overruled an appropriate objection because it hurts Michael.
How does this play for the prosecution? Does it indeed reinforce the idea that they're shipping him off to Brazil? This
No
one-way ticket
question
issue?
about it. Here you have a person who says, Schaffel is the person who comes to me, wants 4 tickets. It's Gavin and his siblings and his mom. They wanted a one-way ticket to Brazil. We're getting them out of the country and then coming up with some arbitrary return date in order to get the ticket. If that doesn't corroborate Janet's testimony, I don't know what does.
Well, and I think that really does go a long way toward it, but they couldn't get a one-way ticket, so why don't they send them someplace else where they could get a one-way ticket if they really want to get rid of these folks? Howard will answer that too on the other side. When we return, Mesereau goes on the attack and the inside story of the rebuttal video from the man who shot it. Stay with us.
The reenactments and commentary in this program may contain frank talk of a sexual nature. Viewer discretion is advised.
Welcome back. On cross-examination, defense attorney Tom Mesereau zeroes in on travel agent Cynthia Montgomery's own legal situation, and it is considerable, folks. Mesereau makes sure the jurors know that this witness on the stand took the stand only after she made a deal with the prosecutors involving another case she's apparently involved in. Here's how it happened, according to the courtroom transcripts.
And the reason you wanted that legal grant of immunity is because currently there is an FBI investigation into allegations that you and others secretly videotaped Michael Jackson on an extra jet flight. True?
I am a witness for that case. Yes.
My question to you is, the reason you wanted a grant of legal immunity was because you know the FBI is currently investigating allegations that you and others secretly videotaped Michael Jackson on an extra jet flight. True?
I can't answer that yes or no.
Are you saying that you've never heard of any FBI investigation into that subject?
No, I've spoken to the FBI voluntarily twice.
Then you're aware of the investigation, correct?
Pertaining to the allegation, correct.
Next, a question that we have asked repeatedly, and we certainly hope that you have as well following this case. Can this travel agent and all the other witnesses who have testified connect the planning of the trip to Brazil directly to the King of Pop?
To your knowledge, was there ever a charge made on any credit card for a trip to Brazil involving the...
Not to my knowledge.
Okay.
No.
And at no time did you ever arrange any trip to Brazil for Mr. Jackson, right?
That's right.
And at no time did you ever speak to Mr. Jackson on the phone about any trip to Brazil, right?
I've never spoken to Mr. Jackson on the telephone.
And you've never spoken to him in person about any trip to Brazil at any time?
That's correct.
All right, Howard, defense response.
Well, I don't know if it's a defense response. I think it's a common sense response. Her testimony about the ticket goes to the conspiracy to hide them away in Brazil count. I don't think it has anything to do with the false imprisonment, with all due respect to Ricky.
Right.
Or
well, because,
whatever.
I mean, if they're secreting them in Brazil, which they don't ultimately do, but making that attempt, it does support that, doesn't it?
No, I don't think it does. The false imprisonment, to me, is keeping them on the ranch, keeping them someplace they can't get off, sending them on a trip to get them out of the country for whatever the reasons are. I think it has nothing to do with this case. What it does do is, again, paint a negative picture of Michael
What about the
so the
immunity,
jurors
real quick,
can look at him and think bad thoughts.
What about the immunity issue?
Well,
the immunity issue really, I think, was mishandled on the part of the prosecution in preparing this witness. She does get immunity. There's a reason for her to get immunity because she could have some problems about the fact of these secret videotapes. So you really need to coach your witness and say to the witness, just say you have it. That's all you have to do.
If I was Tom Mesereau, I would have said to her, ma'am, if you asked for immunity, why did you ask for it?
Why?
What did you think you did?
Exactly. And is that lost on these jurors? Well, next up, lights, camera, action. No, we're not talking about my good-looking partners in crime here. Michael Jackson's personal videographer, yes, you are good-looking, Howard. His personal videographer takes the stand.
All right. Any other video footage that you shot for this rebuttal film or this rebuttal documentary?
We're talking new footage, right?
Yes, new footage.
Well, we shot some footage of the family, but it never got used, never got aired on the Fox.
Okay, so let's talk about that. Were you assigned to shoot video footage of the family for purposes of this rebuttal video?
That's correct.
Who assigned you to that task?
I believe it was Mark Schaffel.
Okay, do you know?
I think it was Mark Schaffel.
Were you ever informed as to what the purpose of taking video footage of the family was. What was the purpose of taking footage of the family?
Well, in the Martin Bashir documentary, there was a shot of Gavin, I believe, and Mr. Jackson holding hands, which had created some sort of controversy about it. And we were trying to show that basically there was nothing between Mr. Jackson and Gavin that they were saying on the media and news and stuff like that.
Well, I'm not sure I understand. There was nothing that they were saying?
Well, just to rebuke that shot that basically Mr. Jackson holding the hand of Gavin. We were putting this family in front of a camera just to see what they have to say and use it in the rebuttal documentary.
Did you discuss this video shooting with Mr. Schaffel?
Of the family?
Yes.
Sure.
Was it anticipated at all that this video would be a positive thing for Mr. Jackson?
Sure.
And in that so-called rebuttal video was Janet, the accuser's mother, a reluctant actress.
Did she describe to you whether or not she was willing to do the rebuttal video shoot?
I believe at the beginning she was not happy to do this rebuttal video.
Okay. Did she tell you why she was not happy about it?
Objection, hearsay.
Offered for state of mind.
Well, the question is, did she tell you why she was not happy? But without telling us any more, did she? Did she tell you that, whether or not she was happy?
She told me that she was not happy.
What did she tell you?
Objection, hearsay.
Offered for state of mind.
I'll admit this, her statement, for the limited purpose of her state of mind, not the truth of the matter asserted in the statement. You may answer.
All right, go ahead and answer that question.
Did she tell me why she didn't want to do it?
Yes.
She said if I remember correctly, she said since the rebuttal documentary of Martin Bashir has aired, her life turned upside down because of the, media and press following her and that kind of stuff. If I remember correctly, she said, the last thing I want to do, another video, and expose myself to more hassle.
Did she want her children to be in another video?
I'm not sure.
Was that any part of her concern?
Yeah.
Objection, asked and answered.
Sustained.
Ricky, Howard, this is a big so what, isn't it?
Well, I don't think it's a so what, and I'm going to flip over and argue in favor of the defense, because what happens here is, of course, she says she's reluctant to do the video for the most reasonable thing on earth. She says she's been hounded by the media, she's a target of the media, she just doesn't want to be part of the public eye anymore.
Isn't that the point?
And she doesn't say she was forced to participate in this video.
No force, and when you see that video, folks, if the court ever releases it, I think you may agree. When we return, prisoners at Neverland. Stay with us for some literally startling, revelations.
The reenactments and commentary in this program may contain frank talk of a sexual nature. Viewer discretion is advised.
Welcome back. Evidence of imprisonment? Maybe. On direct examination, Michael Jackson's videographer provides a courtroom shocker, folks. Here's how he answered questions from Assistant District Attorney Gordon Auchincloss, according to the courtroom transcripts.
After you spoke to Mr. Schaffel and you learned that the shoot was going to take place at your house, did you have a conversation with Joe Marcus, the Neverland Ranch manager?
If I remember correctly, when I arrived at Neverland, I let him know why I'm there, to shoot this interview. Then later, I informed him that it's not going to happen here at Neverland. It's going to happen at my house, and I'm taking the kids with me.
Did you tell him that you were going to do the shoot with the mother and the kids?
I believe so.
What was Mr. Marcus's reaction when you told him that you wanted to take the kids off of Neverland?
Objection, hearsay.
Offered in furtherance.
All right. I'm going to admit it for the limited purposes previously discussed on the conspiracy issue.
What did Mr. Marcus tell you when you informed him that of your intent to take the children?
I believe he said...
To your home?
I believe he said they're not allowed to leave the property.
You believe that, or did...
I did.
Do you remember what he said?
I remember what he said. They're not allowed to leave the property.
Wait, I believe they're not allowed. As far as I remember, Howard Weitzman, This individual, the Ranger at Neverland, is not part of the conspiracy. So how can whatever he says be in furtherance of the conspiracy?
Because the judge lets in anything that paints Michael in a negative light. I can't say it enough. I wish this case was tried on the relevant issues and facts, and that the testimony would have been guided along that way. The result may have been horrendous for Michael Jackson, or it may not be, but that's the way this case should have been tried, in my opinion.
Well, nonetheless, this is very damning testimony against Michael Jackson by virtue of being damning against the people who work for him, because it again corroborates the mother by saying we were not allowed to leave. We were falsely imprisoned. We were there against our will.
But it doesn't, Howard. This gets back to the other point. She ultimately gets a round-trip ticket to Brazil. It's open-ended. It's one of those really expensive last-minute tickets. You can leave whenever you want kind of ticket. That, in addition, never even gets purchased.
Kind of like she left the ranch whenever she wanted. You know what? To me, this has been like an extended Saturday Night Live skit. You know, I honestly, if you look at the people that we've seen, almost each and every one of them have a taint, and they have a bias against Michael Jackson, either lawsuits or their former employees.
But then again, Ricky, prosecutors find their witnesses, take the witnesses as they find them. They can't make these people
I mean, that's like the idea of saying that if you're an organized crime boss and the people who testify against you are organized criminals who have killed people or done other very evil deeds, that somehow the boss should not be convicted. That's ridiculous.
I've been in those cases, in organized crime cases, when I've had the hitmen turn and testify against the bosses. And you know what they testify to? Not the kind of food they eat, not the people they hang around with. They testify they were ordered to commit murder.
Leave it right there. Be sure to watch our exclusive coverage of the Michael Jackson trial tomorrow night, 7:30 p.m. Debbie Rowe, Jackson's ex-wife, anticipated to testify. She's the mother of the 2 children. What will she say when she takes the stand? You can only see it right here on E!